Durham region.
Good evening and welcome to the All Candidates debate for the Durham riding for the upcoming provincial election. All parties have been invited to participate in this debate. The PC candidate has declined and the NDP or the Green Party candidate has not yet been chosen for the riding. So tonight we have Granville Anderson representing the Liberal Party and Joel Usher representing the NDP Party. We will start tonight's debate with a 2-minute statement from each of our candidates, and then following that we will have a series of questions that have been submitted for tonight's debate. Once we've gone through those questions, we will open up the microphone for any questions that may arise from the floor. So I thank you for your attention. We are going to be going in alphabetical order for the first opening. So Granville, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. I am so honored to be here this evening.
You want to? There you go.
So good evening, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out to be here with us this afternoon. And thanks to the organizers for putting this debate together. And we have Joel Usher. Joel, thank you. And I also thank Joel and any candidate in this province that put their name forward. It's a great sacrifice, and it's great to see more folks get involved in the democratic process. I have lived in this community for over 30 years and have served this community in various capacities. Starting, I was a baseball coach, a Durham Literacy Council member, St. Vincent de Paul, a Rotarian, and many other activities in this great community. The last 15 years I have entered public life, 11 years as a school board trustee, and the last 4 years serving the wonderful people of the great riding of Durham. Over the last 4 years, we have achieved a lot together as a community. We have had GO Train extension to Curtis and Bowmanville. And by the way, I will preface that that's a fully funded project in our community. Expansion of the Bowmanville Hospital, which is, for all intents and purposes, it's almost a brand new hospital. That's going to be in excess of $200 million coming to our community, and it's well deserved. As I said, I grew up here when the population of Clarington, it wasn't Clarington then, was about 30,000 people. It has exploded to roughly 100,000 people. So I know I could go on, long-term care homes to the community, to Clarington as well. And I hopefully will be able to continue on June 7th to deliver for Durham, for our great riding. And I will continue further. I understand my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, next we'll have Joel Usher for the NDP Party.
Thank you. Hello, friends and neighbors. Thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you to the organizers, and thank you, Granville. I was born here in Oshawa and raised in Curtis. Spent the first 6 years of my life in Oshawa, came out to Curtis, went to school, Monsignor Leo Cleary Elementary School, actually with Granville's daughter. Before the school, though, was even built, I was there. I was in the church basement. I went to Curtis Secondary School after that, and I kind of cut my teeth around the area. I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen a lot of rapid, dramatic growth in Curtis, Bowmanville, certainly up in around Scugog Township and all around this riding and surrounding communities as well. So I know a lot about what's been going on here, and it's been interesting to say to put a word to it. So a little bit about myself. What you should know is I have a wonderful, supportive wife. I have a 10-year-old son. He's a very courageous and gentle young man. And I have great parents, and they've been a wonderful support structure for me. My grandmother's actually here tonight as well, and it's wonderful to see her here. Since 2005, I've been a paramedic, and in that role, I've really enjoyed my work. It's been fulfilling. But but I've also got involved volunteering. I got involved volunteering with both workers in the community and with patients and patient advocates in the community. That's a big part of what I do and who I am. Thank you. I've watched close friends, educated friends, start businesses around here. Several of those businesses are now closed. I know that highway infrastructure and transit are two big issues, and the commute to and from work is a big deal around here. I plan to improve those commutes, repair long-term care, and ensure that hospitals, mental health facilities, and schools are adequately staffed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you both. I'd ask our candidates to have a seat, please. Thank you. We're going to be here for a while. Get comfortable. Okay. So I have a series of questions in front of me. We will be, again, because there's just the two candidates, rather than consistently going in alphabetical order, we're going to give alternate as who gets the first kick at the question. So, Joel, since you went second with your opening comments, you get the first chance to address this question. It's under the heading of health, and once you've finished your answer, Granville will have 3 minutes to respond to your answer, okay? So under the heading of health, is our health, pharma, dental, home, mental, child care sufficient enough, or would you improve or change our system? That's a big question. It's got a lot of things in it. So it's looking at health and dental, mental health, as well as child care. So
that's a lot in 2 minutes, certainly.
No, you have more than 2 minutes. You can answer the question. Granville will have 3 minutes to reply.
Okay, great. So long story short, no, it's not sufficient. We have wonderful community group. It's called the Durham Health Coalition, and it's a branch, it's an arm of the Ontario Health Coalition. The Ontario Health Coalition has said that we need a 5.3% base hospital funding increase annually. That is significant, yes, and it's significant for a reason, and it's significant because 15 years ago there was a party that cut severely our healthcare system, closing 28 hospitals, laying off 7,000 nurses, closing 6,000 beds, and that party was the PC party. Since then, the Liberals have taken power, and they have not got things back on track. They're not keeping up with growth. I'm proud to say that the NDP's platform has done exactly what the Ontario Health Coalition has demonstrated a need for. In our platform, you'll see a 5.3% increase in base hospital funding moving forward annually. That is very significant, and it's all starting with 2,000 new beds across the province. I'm certainly happy to see that Bowmanville Hospital is expanding. That's definitely a move in the right direction, but look how late it's come. I don't know if any of you here have experience, or anybody who might be watching this on television has experience in Bowmanville Emerge. I do. I've been there myself. I've been there with my wife. I've been there with my son, and I've been there with patients from the community. And what I can say is it's a complete disaster. That emergency department is hardworking as the staff are there. They're working with curtains. They're working with a maze to get in and through to see triage. It's not easily navigated. As far as long-term care goes, I'm very happy to say that not only are we going to be updating the Patient Bill of Rights for long-term care residents so that husbands and wives and partners, they no longer have to be separated as they advance into their older years. Not only that, but over the next 5 years, we're going to be increasing the number of beds by 15,000. 15,000 new long-term care beds, 40,000 over the next 10 years. That's a very significant investment again. On top of that, we're going to be bringing in Canada's first truly universal pharmacare plan. This is actually something that's going to save us money. If you think of the bulk purchasing power that all of Ontarians have together, think of what we can do with that. Think of the deals that we could negotiate with Big Pharma. That's that's a plan that's truly inspirational, and it's a big part of why I'm running. There's going to be significant cost savings there, and as that plan grows and as we negotiate with the federal government to get even more purchasing power, we're going to see that plan become more comprehensive as well. As far as the dental care goes, I'm going to touch on that by saying we have a dental care plan for absolutely everyone, whether it's public dental or our planned Ontario benefits. Ontario benefits will be for the workers and for their families. Public dental will be for everyone else that just needs that extra leg up and shouldn't be suffering, shouldn't be clogging up our emergency rooms, shouldn't be having to go to community health centers to receive dental care. They're going to be able to receive dental care, and that's going to be a significant improvement moving forward. For mental health care, that's something extremely close to my heart. I just finished working on a paramedic psychological health and safety in the workplace standard. And in that standard, we made great strides towards one sector, towards helping out the paramedic community. I'm very proud of the work I did with that initiative, and I'm very proud to say that the NDP moving forward will not only be putting significant funding into mental health care, but they'll also be making it so these standards spread out to other industries. I think that is truly an inspiration.
Okay. Thank you. Over to you, Granville.
Thank you very much. And Joel, I don't know where to actually begin. I agree with you that the Bowmanville Hospital was in a state of disrepair and needed immediate action. And that's why upon being elected in 2014, that was one of my top priorities, along with GO Train services to Curtis and Bowmanville. This is a project that's in excess of $200 million, as I alluded to earlier. That's fully funded, and it's now up to the Lake Ridge Health to start the work on this hospital. The third party, they have a lot of plans, and a lot of plans that doesn't make sense, a lot of plans that I'm not sure how they're going to pay for it. But I'm going to tell you what we have done. When we took office in 2003, 94% of, now there were what? Half of this province didn't have a family doctor. Now 94% of all Ontarians have access to a family doctor and healthcare provider. Both the Fraser Institute and Time Alliance consistently rank Ontario as having the best median wait time in Canada for healthcare, for most healthcare treatments. Since 2003, our physician has grown by over 6,000. Our nurses, which my daughter is a nurse, and by the way, she followed Joel from Mount Senior Leo Cleary to become a paramedic as well. So she's a paramedic in York region as well. So we have hired over 28,000 more nurses, including 11,000 RNs. These are facts. These are verifiable facts. If you go on the RNA website, you will see the numbers. So these are not pie-in-the-sky numbers. These are things that we have actually done. We have opened over 10,000 long-term care beds, and we develop another 13,500 in this province. It's not enough, and that's why we're trying every day to improve that, and it's never enough, but it's a start, and it's a practical start. It's funded, and those developments are happening right now. There are 34 major hospital projects on the way, and Bowmanville is one of them. We're provided access to over 4,400 medications for Ontarians. The NDP plan, it's 125 medications that it covers. So we have done a lot. We're trying to have a universal, we have had OHIP Plus from birth to age 25. And we have now in the budget that just passed today, seniors over 65, there'll be no co-pay. It will be completely free. So that's a big step. The universal, that's how we decide to do it in a reasoned, structured fashion to reach universality. And we're going to do that with our federal partners. We need that structure. Ontario cannot go it alone. We would never be able to fund universal health care and pay for it without jeopardizing other important projects in this. So we're taking a reasonable approach to doing this. Joel alluded to the cuts by the PCs when they were in power in up to 2003. But I'll tell you this, these are facts. When the NDP was in power, they removed 230 drugs from Ontario Drug Benefit Program. Over 10% of all drugs, that's over 10% of all drugs listed in the formula at the time. They closed 24% of long-term care beds in the province. And now they're proposing pharmacare, and they're leaving a lot of critical drugs off the list. So it's a half-baked solution. It's not a solution. It's not a practical solution. 125 drugs is grossly inadequate. So our plan is 4,400 drugs, and eventually every person will have access to every drug that's listed and the formula in this great province. Joel alluded to the Ontario Health Coalition. They visited my office on numerous occasions, including Joel, and lo and behold, a few days later, my office was divulged with call that the Bowmanville Hospital was closing. This was thanks to the Ontario Health Coalition. A lot of anxious seniors called us. We had to reassure them that no, the hospital is not closing. The Minister of Health wasn't aware of it. The Ministry of Health wasn't aware of it. The Lake Ridge Health wasn't aware of it. The CEO wasn't aware of it. The Mayor of Clarington and the council wasn't aware of it, but the Ontario Health Coalition was. So, you know, facts does matter in this province. And you know what, that was very disingenuous and disheartening for our seniors to be concerned over their hospital that it was closing. No, it's expanding, as I alluded to, over $200 million worth of expansion. And that's going to mean more nurses, more hospital beds, more surgical procedures, and of course, it's going to have a brand new state-of-the-art waiting room, as an emergency room as well. So it's not enough, probably not, with our growing population, but it's a start. And that's why, with your help on June 7th, I want to continue this valuable work to improve our community and to continue delivering for Durham and a whole array of files. And I will have more to say later on during this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Granville. So, Joel? I'm going to give you 2 minutes to rebut, Granville, and then we'll move on to the next question. Great.
So with all of those increased nurses and the improvements that Granville's noted, he failed to mention that here in Ontario we have the lowest number of hospital beds per capita in all of Canada. In fact, only Chile and Mexico in the OECD have fewer hospital beds per capita. Granville also failed to mention that these hospital expansions and these new build hospitals, they're P3 projects. And I know that's not a term that everybody's completely familiar with, but essentially what's happening is the government's contracting out contractors. Traditionally, what happens with government procurement in these situations is they find people to do the construction on these projects. They set up the budget, they set up the deadlines, and then they deal with things as they come up, issues as they come up, delays as they come up. With these P3 projects, what's happening is, first of all, there's very complex agreements made between the government and their developer friends. And those agreements need to be overseen by very expensive lawyers. And then those agreements, they overestimate how long the delays are going to be, what the liability issues are going to be. As insurance companies do, they have to prepare for the worst case scenario. So that additionally adds significant amount of money to these projects. In fact, the Auditor General said that these P3 products, with them over the last decade, there's been over $8 billion in waste. Now imagine if we had that $8 billion today and what we could do with that $8 billion. I'll also just mention that I'm in healthcare. It's not a system that's improving.
It's time, Joel. Okay. Thank you. The next question I'll address to Granville first. He can answer it, Joel will respond, and then you'll have 2 minutes to respond to Joel's response. Okay, so this is a loaded question. So, Ontario Hydro's debt in 1999 was essentially enough to bankrupt the province. In response, the government of the day dismantled Ontario Hydro into a number of successor companies, one of them being Hydro One. This was done to deal with the $23.5 billion in stranded debt that Ontario Hydro had. Basically, what a stranded debt is what your assets are versus what you owe. And at the point that Ontario Hydro was dismantled, it had $15.5 billion in assets, and it also had $39 billion in debt. So if you subtract one from the other, you have a stranded debt of $23.5 billion. So since that time, subsequent governments have been doing everything but actually acknowledging the legacy of this debt. If elected, would your party, and if re-elected, would your party stop blaming the current management at the Ontario Power Generation Company, one of the successor companies, and other successor companies, and finally come clean about the real costs and the real debts?
Okay, that's a wonderful question, and we have tackled that. And yes, 2/3 of hydro was sold off. What was left was just transmission lines. A lot of folks don't know that, but it was just transmission lines that the province had control over. We decided as a government to bring in some private sector input into it. And you know what? The truth is, I believe in public ownership of a lot of things that should remain public. This might have been one of them, but it sold off, it sold, and we still maintain control over it 40%. When we assume power, we've spent $70 billion in rewiring the system, upgrading the system, and I'm not going to blame previous government for this or anything. It's just that it needed to be done. I was coaching baseball back then when the 3-day blackout occurred, and there were subsequent blackouts, 2 days, 1 day, whatever. That doesn't happen anymore because we decide to invest in the system, and we have invested and we have diversified, whether wind and solar, we have hydroelectricity, we have had a number of different ventures. It's diversified. It's one of the most diversified systems in the world, and that's why it's reliable and it's clean. And we also got rid of coal-fired plants too, so that's added. And that, believe it or not, $4 billion a year, it saved this province in healthcare costs. And not to talk about the human toll of human lives and illnesses that this has prevented, that I believe no cost really is equated to one life being lost because of the dirty coal-fired plants and the environmental things. We have no more smog days. I grew up with smog days all over Ontario, like 2, 3, 4, 5 days in the summer. You were told not to go outside. That doesn't happen in Ontario anymore. So there's a cost associated with that. And so while we eliminated coal, it's now 95%, 96% emission-free. We have our children don't experience asthma as much anymore. So we've done some wonderful things. And yes, and associated that, there's a cost. That's why we've decided that ratepayers were paying too much, and we brought in the Fair Hydro Plan, which was 25% reduction in the cost of electricity right across the board. If you're in a rural community, and it depends on where you live, it's up to 50% reduction. And we're competitive. Our hydro rates are competitive with a lot of jurisdictions in the States and even Canada itself. Yes, we're not going to compete with Quebec and Manitoba because they're solely, it's water, it's generated, it's hydro that's generated from water within their provinces. So it's going to be less expensive. But we have done a lot, and we talk about the refurbishment of Darlington, which is another massive project, and that's 99% clean hydroelectricity. Clean electricity, rather than nuclear electricity. It's clean and it's relatively safe. And to ensure that safety, we decided the refurbishment came into being. And folks don't know that the Bruce was scheduled to go ahead of Darlington, but it's efforts, my efforts, and my colleagues, we decided to do Darlington first because it's going to keep electricity rate down, and it's going to make sure our electricity system is upgraded and safer for my community. And it's not just this community. If you have a nuclear catastrophe, it's going to affect for hundreds of miles around. So we did that. So there was a cost associated with that. That's going to last for another 50, 60 years. And so to pay for all of that, hydro rate was high. We decided to spread the rate out. It's like taking out a mortgage and let everybody bear some of the burden. Why should the generation folks now pay for all of it when it's going to benefit folks for years to come? So those are some of the things we did. And you know what? Right now, there was a report in the Globe and Mail and in the National Post that's saying selling off hydro or buying it back, as the NDP proposed to do, would not save 1 penny in electricity bill. It would run this province into a greater debt, and it would not benefit no one other than their political ideology.
Let's leave it there and turn it over to Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, stop blaming OPG for the debt, I think is what the question asked. I will touch on a few of the things that Granville mentioned. Actually, yeah, it's not the Ontario Power Generation's fault that we have the debt. Ontario Hydro was a company that was poorly run, but Ontario Hydro was also a company that offered public power at cost. Yes, there was a transition period when we started to look into nuclear technology. We're a pioneer in nuclear technology here in Ontario. And with that, there was some significant debt and some significant delays, some significant unexpected prices of raw product. But blaming OPG for the debt, certainly you're not going to see the NDP doing that. Granville spoke a lot about the sell-off of Hydro One that his government just did. We now own 47.6%, I believe, or 47.4%. I can't quite remember, but the Liberal government sold off a majority of that. That was something that I personally lobbied Granville on. I went around the community knocking on doors. I tried to keep Hydro One public because it's making for us, or it was, when the information was last available, and it no longer is because it's now a private corporation. It was making for us $750 million a year. $750 million. Now we're only getting 47 point some odd percent of that $750 million. So that's one thing I'll mention. Mike Harris and the PCs and Ernie Eves and everything that happened in around the turn of the century, that's where the blame lies. They ended public power at cost. Since then, we've seen our hydro rates skyrocket, and they put their foot in the door for starting the privatization, and the Liberals opened that door wide. So things like the Bruce nuclear plant, we built that. That was us. That was Ontario. And we said, here you go to a private corporation. And that private corporation is now running and reaping the benefits of running that plant. Nuclear power, I'll say this, Yesterday, it provided nearly 2/3 of the power in Ontario. Now, I would love an Ontario with completely renewable energy, absolutely. And Granville mentioned the coal-fired plants that his government got out of Ontario. With the sell-off of Hydro One, with what his government's done, Hydro One's now purchased the largest coal-burning plant west of the Mississippi River. And that coal-burning plant, that is very close to the Canadian border. So he's kind of speaking about two different things here, about smog days and about what's good for us. And really, that Hydro One could have purchased that coal-burning plant if it was there right across the border into New York, or right across the border into Michigan. Those are things that actually could have happened because we don't have the power to stop that any longer. So it's something for all Ontarians to think about. I'm also going to mention the timing of their climate change action plan. That's where they said, you know, there's going to be more natural gas, or we're going to get rid of the natural gas, and we're going to have more electricity in homes. We're going to have more electric cars. There's going to be more subsidies for electric cars. They did that after they sold one of our assets that was worth $750 million a year. I don't understand what they're thinking. I could go on for so long on the hydro issue, but our plan, the NDP's plan, I'll just highlight it. We're going to buy back Hydro One, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. They put us in a very difficult circumstance. But one of the things that we're going to do to make it more affordable is we're going to cap corporate profits. So right now, corporations are reaping profits of over 5%, 5.5%, I believe, on average. And we're going to cap that at 3%, like they do in Manitoba. Imagine what that's going to do to the share price. We're gonna put the squeeze on them. That $6 million man that we heard about last night. I would love to be able to get rid of that guy, but we can't because it's a private corporation now. So we're going to get rid of that guy, but we're going to do it differently. We're going to do it by first buying back Hydro One. We're going to end time of use, and think about what that's going to do for our senior community particularly. They're not staying up all night to do their laundry, or I hope they're not, but you know what, maybe they are. And it's a shame. It's shameful that people have to really think about staying up late into the night in order to get their laundry done, in order to be able to afford to do their laundry. We're going to also cancel or renegotiate bad contracts. So the green energy contracts, the contracts with companies like the Samsung Consortium, the ones that they found that weren't hiring enough people like they were supposed to in the contracts, or they weren't producing enough electricity like they were supposed to do in the contracts. We're gonna get rid of those contracts, and it's gonna be that easy because they're not fulfilling their side of it. People are saying, okay, well, how are you gonna do it? That's how. A contract is only as good as the two different parties that make it, and if one party's not holding up its end of the bargain, that contract can be renegotiated or ended. There's so much on this topic, and it's such a vast topic. I mean, once something's privatized, this is the ultimate thing, and this came up with healthcare as well with the P3s. Once something's privatized, the new #1 priority moves from serving the public, which is what it was there for in the first place, to profits for liberal friends or profits for conservative friends on Bay Street. And that's the law. That's the law. And it's a shame that that's the law. But it is the law, and we need to make it public again so the #1 priority can go back to it being to serve the people.
Thank you, Joel. That was very passionate. Granville, you have 2 minutes to reply.
I don't know. Will the real Doug Ford stand up? He's going to tear up contracts. That's what Doug Ford said. And you know what? Tearing up contracts is all well and good, and it's good soundbite. You know, I didn't want to go down this path, but the gas plants, that's it. We tore a contract up. Basically, that's what we did. And, you know, it was the right thing to do, because I'm not going to get into a lot of this. It takes hours to explain that. But, you know, the gas plant was in the middle of a community like downtown Bowmanville, if it was in my community, I would lobby for it to go. The opposition said, okay, we did it to win 5 seats. All parties said, if we were elected, we would remove the gas plant, which was the right thing to do. We said, okay, we will remove the gas plant. We got elected, we removed the gas plant. But because we are committed to people and we promise, we do things we promise, we remove the gas plant. But it ended up costing taxpayers a lot of money. But, you know, that's something that we did. And if it, as I said, if it was in my community, I would fight like hell to have it removed because it's dangerous, it can explode, and it was close to a hospital. I'm not going to go into why it was there in the first place. So be wary when you hear that we're going to tear contracts up. The cost can be exponential, and it's not a practical thing to do, just as the pie in the sky idea of buying back Hydro One. We made the choice to leverage the value of Hydro One so we could make such much needed investment in infrastructure, like the 407, like the GO train to Bowmanville. And that's what we did. We achieved our target, $9 billion that is invested in the GO train and roads and schools and hospitals, etc. So that's money invested. That's not money down the drain. So that's where we went with that, and that's why we made that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is related to taxes. I'd ask our timer, Janice, to give each of the candidates 5 minutes on this one, please. Would you make any changes to provincial taxes? Granville, you get the first kick on this one. No, hang on. I think is it you this time?
Yes.
Oh, this is Joel first time. Yes, because you get to rebid. All right. Fair enough.
Okay, yes, we do have some plans for taxes, and I don't see taxes in this case as being a dirty word, but rather a word that's going to help reduce the gap between the people that have and the people that don't, between the rich and the poor. It's going to be something that makes everyone pay their fair share. And who I'm talking about here is individuals, not family incomes, but individuals who are earning more than $220,000 a year. They're going to see a 1% tax increase. This is actually a pretty easy question to answer because it's all very well laid out in our 98-page platform that's costed. Individuals who are earning more than $300,000 a year, it's going to be an extra 2% that they're going to be paying in taxes. On top of that, there's going to be a speculation tax, and that's for something that's going to help with the housing situation. It's going to help to make it so that there's more rental spaces available and that there's more affordable houses so that young people entering into the economy, they can afford to buy a home. And this is a speculation tax. So this is going to keep it so that speculators, so that people who are buying up real estate for the purpose of not living in it, but rather just making money off it, that they're going to have to pay their fair share. And really, that's where the increases are going to be. Our platform, like I say, is very well costed. Granville mentioned earlier this idea of not knowing where the money's coming from. Well, it's all there, every little bit of it. I don't have my other colleague here to point at to say that, what's your plan, where's your platform? But I will say, because they're just picking numbers out of the air at this point. They haven't costed anything. Their leader is just blowing smoke. Ours is all there, it's all transparent, and I expect to be held to account when I become your representative at Queen's Park.
Thank you, Joel. Granville, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, taxes, yeah, I hear people say we pay too much taxes. In some cases, we do, but we get the benefits for it. And I have no problem with paying taxes or everyone paying their fair share for the betterment of our community. If it's your money that's well spent, and roads and hospital and making sure the services are there when you need it, Joel made an interesting point because his universal daycare, his universal health care, dental coverage, etc., it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to cost people a lot of taxes. Taxes, people are stretched at the moment with tax, so they cannot afford any more taxes. He did say 220 people making $220,000. That's not an exorbitant amount of money to be made, and a lot of people in our community already make that. So folks, you're all going to be ponying up under the NDP plan. Our plan is that we expand and we grow the economy. That's how we get our money, by bringing services, go train services here, the 407, investment in people, investment in our community. And businesses want to come here. So if you're going to tax businesses, they're not going to want to come here in the first place. They're going to go to the States, where, as you know, Donald Trump, which we have Trump Light here, has already cut their tax rate. And he has cut it in half, and Ontario still has one of the lowest tax rates. So we want to make sure we have the climate that's conducive to encouraging business here. And it's because we do why companies like Amazon wants to come here. So Amazon, there were 200 community, 200 cities on the list. It was whittled down to 20. Ontario was one of them. I believe it's now top five. And Ontario, and this region, Durham region, actually, it's where Amazon would be thinking of coming. So we have to be mindful of raising taxes and driving business away, because that's we like to broaden the economy and create opportunities, create jobs for people, bringing business into our community, not driving them away. Toyota is opening up in Bowmanville, and that's for a reason. It's because we have the infrastructure to do that. We're going to have the hospital, we're going to have the daycare facilities for people to raise young families, we're going to have the schools, we're going to do that in a structured, reasonable manner. And, you know, for me, as I alluded to, paying taxes it shouldn't be considered a burden. It should consider something we all do to better the lives of our community and to make Ontario is a great place to live. Durham is a great place to live. Durham is now one of the greatest places to live if you look at the boom and the amount of people that wants to come to Durham, and it's because of our investment in these projects, our investment in our hospital, our long-term care facility, our hospices, and all we have to offer. And that's what we do as a society. And that's what we'll continue to do. We want to create those jobs and bring those jobs here and broaden our tax base. That's how we plan to fund that. And that's why Ontario leads all of North America. Ontario leads all of Europe in economic growth. And it's because we're doing things right in Ontario. And Ontario also has the lowest unemployment in the country, 5.5%, and that's full-time jobs, well-paying jobs. And that's why we want to continue. And I want to continue to deliver for Durham, and I want to continue to see this community grow and prosper. And you know, and it has done very well over the last 4 years, because we did this together as a community, being able to work with my municipal partners and to work with the community groups. We were able to achieve this, and we have achieved too much, and we have come too far over the last 4 years to turn back now. So let's continue this growth after June 7th, and I will continue to work hard for my community and to make sure we grow and expand and make sure young families move here, and the transformative things we started to transform this community into a bedroom community, from a bedroom community into a community where people can work and have time to come home and have good family time, because the jobs are right here in Durham. So that's what I want to do. Thank you.
So we'll give Joel 2 minutes to rebut Granville's comments, please.
So just a couple of things. One thing that I did fail to mention, and I apologize, there is another piece of our taxation plan, and that's to increase corporate taxation rates by 1.5%. That's going to bring it up to the Canadian average. but you're still going to remain competitive, and we're going to be very attractive. We're going to be attractive. Why? Because we have a dental care for everyone plan, because we have an affordable child care plan, and because we have universal pharmacare plan. We're also going to be getting people moving by supplying 50% of the funding for municipal transit projects, and we're going to be doing that without using the private model, the private P3 model. We don't have a spending problem here in Ontario. We have a revenue problem. This Liberal government, they've been bragging about how we have the least expenses on public services, or one of the least in Canada. That is shameful. Think about all the people that are going without. Think about all the need that exists out there. Think about young children on waiting lists. Think about people that aren't able to get psychological assessments in schools. All of these things are because we're spending the least. And people aren't paying their fair share. That's where the difference is. That's why the gap's widening. It's because we are spending so much money to pad corporate profits. We're spending so much money to be taken offshore and put in accounts that's not circulating back through our communities. All of these things are equating to that gap widening instead of closing. And that's got to be the goal. We've got to move away from this neoliberalism model, and we've got to and we've got to make people pay their fair share, whether that's the extremely wealthy or whether that's big corporations. But we are going to continue to be open for business. We are going to continue to be an attractive place to do business. Why? Because we're going to be spending more. We're going to be
And that's time. You finish your sentence.
We're going to have the best health care. We're going to have the best child care. We're going to have the best pharmacare. We're going to have the best dental care. We're going to be a place where people want to do business. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a huge question, so I'm actually going to break it up into sections. So I'm going to ask our timer to give each of the candidates 2 minutes and then 1 minute for rebuttal. There are, I think, 8 parts to this question, okay? So the first question, and Granville, you'll get the first kick on this one. This is with regard to Liberal growth and the Greenbelt. There are high densities suitable for certain areas. Would you keep the established urban boundary? And we know the Conservative leader, Doug Ford, made significant ruffles last week when he said, well, we're just going to pave the Greenbelt, and then backed up on that. So what would your party do? What would you do to keep the established urban boundaries, and why?
Okay. That's a wonderful question, and it's it's my government, my party, which I'm so proud of. We are the one that institute and develop the Greenbelt. It's our project, so we're going to make sure it's preserved, and we're going to make sure, actually the Premier is on record of saying that she's going to expand the Greenbelt. And we need to do that because we need to preserve agricultural farmland. We need to make sure people have clean, fresh air. We need to make sure that our waterways, our water is clean. And we need to make sure people can go out and go into the woods, go into the forests, and we also have to preserve our endangered species as well. So it's important. I know the Conservatives, they would pave it over. Actually, he backtracked after it was found out he had a secret deal with developers. And I believe we have to find the balance because we need developers. People need place to live. But there is more than enough land that's outside the Greenbelt that could, I believe, that could last another 100 years without touching any of the lands that's designated as Greenbelt. So yes, we're going to preserve and expand the Greenbelt if elected on June 7th.
Thank you. Joel.
So our plan is to also preserve and expand the Greenbelt. The entire situation with Doug Ford and the Greenbelt comment that he made, I think that's gonna kind of show the type of government that would be elected with a Doug Ford government. Just the type of people that would just say anything and then put out the fire after. What our plan is, though, for housing is to build along transit lines, and this is key because that's where that came from. It was, you know, his plans with his rich friends, developer friends, for sure. We saw it. We all saw the YouTube video, or many of us saw the YouTube video. But we have land, we have area that we can expand within our communities, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be building, we're going to be working with municipalities. We're going to be giving municipalities more ability through the LPAT to expand on zoning, to renegotiate zoning areas that they have within their communities. Right? We don't want to be the ones that are making all the decisions. We have a body for that. We're going to be working with the municipalities more, and the result of that is going to be more housing, it's going to be more affordable housing, and it's going to be along transit lines. We're going to, in order to do that, we're going to be, you know, allowing municipalities to remove some of the current conditions on parking that go along with having expanded residences in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Granville, do you have anything to add?
I believe we have found common ground. I believe the NDP, we are think about the green belt and preserving the green belt in much the same fashion. And, you know, it's important to me that that's done. And, you know, we are a government that believe in global warming and climate change, as opposed to the conservatives who don't believe any of that exists. So we got to preserve our green belt. We got to expand our green belt, and at the same time, we have to be appreciative that we need growth. We need houses. But as I alluded to earlier, there is ample land outside the green belt that's ready for development and to create those opportunities and those housing opportunities for folks to live in.
Thank you. Okay. Next question, a related question, refers to the PPS. The PPS is a short version of the Provincial Policy Statement. The Provincial Policy Statement, for those of you who haven't grown up in planning departments, is the guiding document that the province created. I believe it's the Liberals who brought it into force. And the PPS decides part of Places to Grow, the Greenbelt Act, all of the planning decisions that monitor how municipalities can grow are driven primarily from the PPS. Our regional planning and our municipal planning all have to be in compliance with the Provincial Policy Statement, or the PPS. So, my first question, Joel, you get the first kick at the can. Would you make changes to the PPS or keep the same policies to protect people and the natural systems? 2 minutes, please.
Changes to the PPS? No, but what we are going to be doing is we're going to be pushing for municipalities to be able to have more of a say in the local planning tribunals. That's really a piece of our platform that I can bring to light with this PPS question. Beyond that, I don't really have much else to say.
Okay, thank you. Granville?
Yeah, actually, we would keep it the same, but I'll just add this. That's why we have made changes to the OMB to give municipalities more say in the development of around the PPS, to make sure they have a say in what happens, and it's not in the hands of the OMB, who makes decisions arbitrarily. So those are the only changes, but those changes are in the works, and for that exact reason. So I would leave it the way it is and let those changes unfold.
Thank you. Joel, do you have anything to add?
Just with the local planning tribunal, just that what we want is for them to be elected, because currently they aren't elected. That's.
Thank you. Okay, the next part of the question relates to the Durham incinerator. There's some background data here that has been provided. The baseline monitoring data before the incinerator started, provided evidence that the PM2.5, which is one of the major particulates that are measured and is a major trigger for asthma and one of the reasons why we phased out coal in the province, was already a problem in Curtis and exceeded the World Health Organization's benchmark. The nitrogen dioxide levels, NO2, and ambient levels pre-incinerator were also some of the highest in Ontario, higher than Sarnia, Toronto, Hamilton, and other major urban centres. This is largely, it says that due to the fact that St. Mary's Cement produces a lot of NO2. We're also downstream from the GTA, so our baseline is quite high. The incinerator is experiencing higher emissions and technical problems since their startup, and we've seen this in the paper. Would your government do something about this problem, and what would that be? And Granville, you get the first kick at this one.
Okay, so we have done something. When I got first elected, the incinerator was just in its inception, was being built, and there was a lot of controversy around it. The alternative is to bury waste in the ground, which I don't think is ideal either, because that's seeping into our agricultural land, it's seeping into our water table. It's not ideal. So what I did, what my country, it's the municipality, they're the one that really, I made sure that the Ministry of the Environment was aware, make sure the ministry was aware, make sure that we have increased the frequency of monitoring. And it has closed down a few times because it exceeded those levels. And that was because of the overtures and because of the things I try to do with the ministry and to make sure to work with them. So we have to work with the Ministry of the Environment and have strict rules around it, make sure it's monitored, make sure that the emissions does not exceed the standards, the set standards. We want them below those standards in most cases. So it's been monitored to the best of my ability, and I haven't had any recent complaints about that recently. It's something that if it's monitored and it's filtered and it's up to standard, it's sustainable and it works. But we have to make sure as well, we have a civic responsibility to make sure what goes into the incinerator. So maybe the monitor of what exactly get burnt, that's something that we would look at, and that's something that I would try to have look at some more to make sure that what comes out on the other end is relatively clean as possible.
Thank you. Joel.
So the incinerator, wow, okay. So Clarington used to be Newcastle, and Newcastle changed its name to Clarington, combining Clark and Darlington, Clarington. And then Clarington, we became part of Durham region. And I remember reading the paper, I was younger, and seeing there's not going to be any change with the structure. You're still going to have the same power. Next thing you know, I'm young and I'm reading the paper, and there's a meeting being held in York region about putting an incinerator in my hometown of Curtis. And they voted, yeah, sure, why not? Let's put it in Curtis. And so right from the get-go, the incinerator's been a thorn in our side here, and now we've seen that it's not working properly. I can't say that, you know, I'm going to shut it down as much as I would like to say that. I can't. But what I will say is that certainly we're going to monitor the air quality. But we're also working in our platform on better governance. And a piece of our platform, and when it comes to everything environmental, I think this is an extremely key issue. We're putting together a commission on electoral reform. And that commission's going to report back with other models that will be improving our democracy. And when that happens, it will no longer be this first past the post system. And we've heard the lies from the federal Liberals about getting rid of first past the post in that forum, and that it was going to be the last election that we had with that.
20 seconds.
We can't succeed in any of our initiatives without voting for the party that we want to vote for, rather than voting for a party that's going to stop the party that we don't want to take power. And to summarize, that's the only way we're going to make strides on these environmental issues.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Granville, you have a minute if you'd like to add anything.
Yeah, I agree with some of what Joel said. And as I said, the incinerator is there, we're not, and he alluded to that, we cannot just close it. But I'll make sure that it's monitored and make sure that the emissions are safe and below the provincial standard set, because I want to make sure our residents are in a safe, healthy environment. So I will continue to make sure that that monitoring is done. If it requires 4 times a year, so be it. But we have to make sure, and if it exceeds those requirements, then shut it down and get the problem fixed. There are incinerators all over Europe that function a lot better. So maybe it's the company that built it. Probably it's too late now. But there are companies that build incinerators that perform a lot better than the one we have in Clarington. So we just have to monitor it and make sure the emissions are at safe levels.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, thank you. All right, the next question. Joel, you get the first kick of the can on this one. It comes under the heading of waste and recycling. And it's a rather generic question. What are your plans for waste and recycling? This community, as you're well aware, has been dealing with a lot of provincial waste for a very long time. We have some really great recycling programs, but I will remind you that there are 3 R's, and the first one is reduce. So with that in mind, what are the NDP plans for waste and recycling? 2 minutes.
Thank you. A big part of my own personal what I believe in is I believe in getting rid of the plastics, the bottled waters. I believe in stopping the privatization of our water systems, because you know who's buying them up? It's Nestle. And Nestle, again, going back to the profit motivation, that's what they are. They're a private corporation. They have to make money. So that comes above all else. So one thing that you can expect to see with the NTP government is there won't be any privatization of our water systems. We don't believe in privatization. It's something that you're probably not going to find in our platform, that we won't privatize water systems, because it goes without saying. We believe in keeping systems like that public. That's the NDP's entire motive, is to keep things public, keep that profit motivation out of it. Beyond that, I would like to say some more, but I won't. I do certainly have my own motivations and would bring them to Queen's Park with me, and would contribute to the caucus conversations on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Granville, waste and recycling.
I agree. We have to recycle more, and we have to create a culture that's conducive to doing that. Make sure things are reusable, whether it's water bottles. That's a good point. Make sure we change the culture. People drink from reusable water bottles and maybe stop buying water. And I'm guilty of it myself, because I like to. There's one on the table right now. So, and you know, those things linger around for 100 years, I believe, or the study on it is.
Thousands. Thousands.
Thousands of years? Yes. So that's totally unacceptable, and we soon won't run out of room to put things like plastic. So it's something that we have to, but it needs a whole culture shift. We got to teach from a young age kids to bring their own water bottles to school, fill it up at the top, make sure our water is clean and healthy and wholesome, and filtered if possible. More filtration, and get rid of the excessive water bottle, and get rid of things that is going to clog and the environment. 5 cents and plastic bags doesn't really cut it, so we have to do a lot more there. Maybe we should go back when I was growing up here. We had the paper bags. So those are things that we can do, and those are things we have to do to preserve our environment and the planet we live on, and we want to make sure that it's sustainable and this planet is around for a long time for us all to benefit from. So I agree that we have to do that more.
Thank you. Anything to add on that question, Joel?
Nothing further from me.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. All right, the next question, here we go back to Darlington. Granville, you get the first kick on this one. Are there any plans for this station other than the current refurbishment?
Right now, no. We're going to refurbish it, and as I said, it's going to last another 50 years or whatever. So, and it's going to be, we want to make sure it was safe, and we have, as I alluded to earlier, our electricity system is so diversified now that there isn't an immediate need for it, but it's something that it's not on the front burner at the moment. It's something that's there. We have electricity from wind turbines and a number of other sources, and we have to maybe develop technology to store electricity, and that technology probably within a few years will be available so we can store electricity. We have more ample amount of electricity right now, so that's not in the immediate plan to expand it, but as I said, it's going to be refurbished, or it's in the process of being refurbished. And by the way, it's clean, 90, almost 100% clean energy. And affordability is a big key for folks, so it's affordable. It's one of the cheapest form of electricity out there. So until we find something better, and it's going to allow people to heat their home and live, you know, and operate our factories and our manufacturing, etc. We need that electricity. So we need a combination of both. So it's something that we will probably look at if there's a need. But right now there isn't a need for any expansion at this moment.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Joel.
The short answer and the long answer, unfortunately, no, we don't have any plans beyond the refurbishment. It's providing a lot of our electricity, nuclear energy in this province. As I mentioned earlier, it's nearly 2/3. Its capacity compared to all the other generators is of the 100%, its capacity is actually about 35%. And yet here we are with it providing 2/3 of the electricity. And there's a reason for that, and it's because it's inexpensive power compared to the much more expensive solar, much more expensive wind. And with the case of Darlington Nuclear Power Plant and Pickering Nuclear Power Plant to our west, they're publicly owned. That's at least generation that's not padding corporate profits and being taken out of our economy. Our plan is for more renewable energy, but it's got to be renewable energy that makes sense. It has to be renewable energy that is competitive, and it has to be renewable energy that we can store, because the sun's not always shining, the wind's not always blowing. We need to be able to store it, and the technology is there. And I look forward to the development of our storage capabilities as time goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Granville, do you have anything to add?
No.
Fine, thank you. Okay, on to the next question. Highway 418 and the impact on the community. So the PCE's approved 407, 418, and the statement here is that the cumulative effects were not considered. So Liberal government made the contracts with Blackbird to build the road, but Blackbird did not abide with the EA decisions or contract. So there have been a number of problems that this community has been experiencing as a result. They include flooding, well problems, scarcity of water, noise, air pollution, and there's also the question of mitigating the removal of 18 hectares of forested and wetland areas. So would your government ask the contractor to solve these problems? And just to note, this is a 30-year contract, which will be paid for by the local residents. Actually, Joel, you've got the first one on this one. 2 minutes, please.
Would the NDP ask Blackbird to resolve these problems? Absolutely. This is another example. These builds, these are these P3s. and they're costly. And it disgusts me that there's flooding, and it disgusts me that there's well water problems. It's not okay that we're going to these P3s, this privatization route, to fund these things. When a private corporation is borrowing money in order to do these big contracts, and fulfill these big contracts, they're not getting the same rates as the government would be getting. Government has some exceptional lending rates right now. There's governments in this world that don't have good credit. Ours does. It doesn't make any sense to be handing these contracts over. So the long and short of it is, yes, absolutely, we would look to rectify these contracts. Thank you.
Thank you. Granville, over to you.
Yes, okay, so I agree with you that Blackbird should be held to account, and my staff, they'll tell you we spend hours dealing with Blackbird and dealing with complaints from constituents. As for the dry wells, studies after study, the municipality did their own studies, the province, a lot of it wasn't caused by Blackbird. The wells were running dry in Peterborough, all over the place. It was a dry year. Since the rain has started and the weather condition pattern has changed, there's no more dry wells. So I wouldn't attribute the wells being dry because of the 407. And you know what, and that's fact. I am a straight shooter. I'm not going to say it's because of the 407 that happened. The flooding is because of the 418 and the 407. Some of these wells, and I looked into it, and yes, folks' wells ran dry, and I tried my best. I said, okay, as a matter of goodwill, replenish these wells with Blackbird. I don't know if they did, but we try our best to get that done. If it was an ongoing problem, then yes, I could say attribute it to the construction of the 480 and the 407. But really, frankly, it's not, and that was proven over and over again. And as I alluded, as I said earlier, wells were running dry all over this province because there wasn't a lot of rain that year. After that change, there was I didn't get any more calls about dry wells.
Thank you. Joel, do you have anything to add?
Just that these are roads that I'm not sure for the next many years are going to get great usage. These are big, massive projects, big investments from our government, and what we need is some roads that people are actually going to use that don't have the pay-to-use piece on it. We all know that commuting during rush hour westbound is very difficult. Commuting during rush hour eastbound at the end of the day is very difficult. These investments could have been made elsewhere. I get that, part of the idea of a toll road is to pay as you go. I certainly do understand that, but we can't move, and our economy's suffering because trucks can't move, people can't move, and we're not growing as a community as we could because of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think I know the answer to the next one. This question relates to the GO train stations for Curtis and Bowmanville, and we had a public meeting just last week with respect to this and the plans going forward. The question is, and I think it may be a bit dated at this point, but I'd be happy to have you elaborate on it. Granville, you go first. Are you planning for these stations, and when will they be ready for public use?
Okay, that's a wonderful question, and that's a question that our community it's long overdue. And I'm going to segue into something here. I was watching a video, and I don't know how many of you saw it on Saturday. It was a PC video, and that candidate isn't here. I hate talking about candidates when they're not here, but this one I had to comment on. The GO train, it's fully funded. Fully funded, it's earmarked, it's ready to go. Metrolinx, anybody can verify that with Metrolinx. So this video, the PC candidate said, oh, to the federal member, isn't the GO train coming for the last 20 years or something to that effect? And he started to giggle that, oh yeah, it's coming, but it's not fun, it's not coming. It's out there that it's not coming. You know, I took over this ride in 4 years. The GO train wasn't on the radar. That the previous member, PC member that is, didn't do anything in the file over 20 years. So he didn't do anything on it, and I'm going to say it's quite honest. It wasn't even on the radar. So they were in government for 8 or 9 of those 20 years. Nothing was done. While he was in opposition, he didn't lobby the government to get GO train services here, or he couldn't work with the government to get that done. I went in and that was the only thing on my platform, that was the only thing that I promised the people of this area was GO train services. So it's up and it's ready. The land is purchased in Curtis. The land is purchased in Bowmanville. We are doing some work. There are signs up. And by the way, there are 2 other stops in Oshawa as well. So it's well on its way, and as soon as the environmental assessment is being done, and the delay, it's because it's to the north of the 401, so the bridge, and that takes some engineering work. So as soon as all of that is done, the GO train will be up and running before 2023 or even before then. So that's where it's at. So make no mistake about it. It's coming. It's funded. Unless some other government decide to cancel the contract, then that's the only way GO train isn't coming to this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joel.
So that other government won't be us. And we have no plans to stop the expansion of
That's good to hear.
Of the GO train stations out to Bowmanville and the other ones in between. We also, on top of that, have not only a plan to keep the entire transit project public, but keep transit itself public, where it is public still. That's going to be really important. As far as making sure that everybody's money goes as far as it can when riding those systems. When there's short travel, it's going to be a $3 fare in our platform. That's something else that's important. But also, we're going to be expanding bus systems. And this is something that may not get a whole lot of attention. It might not sound particularly sexy, but we need to get people moving, because right now they're not. And there needs to be more routes, there needs to be more buses. And hopefully over time, we're going to actually get some infrastructure for those to travel on, infrastructure that will be actually used. We have a plan that's going to cover 50% of the net cost for municipal transit initiatives. So think about what that means. Think about what can be done with that. We'll be working with our Durham Region Transit. We'll be working with GO Transit, and we're going to get things done. We're going to get people moving. Thank you.
Okay. Granville, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Okay, I could add. So the GO train coming, it serves multifaceted purposes. It's going to allow people, and it's, by the way, it's going to be electrified, and it's going to be service every 15 minutes. So I just want to throw that out there. So it's going, so people, the commute time will be a lot less, and it's going to take cars off the road, and it's going to allow family time. People will be able to get home to take their kids to the soccer game, the football game, whatever, hockey game, etc. And it, you know, family time is very important. So it's going to cut down on commuting time immensely, and it's going to make this community transformative. It's going to change this from a bedroom community to a community where businesses are really attracted to. So people will be coming out and they go to work in Clarington and surrounding areas. So that's the hope, and that's what I want to continue after June 7th.
Fine, thank you. All right, second last question. We've touched on this a bit earlier, but I'd like to, obviously it was important because it was submitted by the residents. So with respect to the OMB reform that is on the table right now, the Liberal government has put on, do you agree with the changes? Or what would you do to protect people's health and safety with respect to that? Joel, you get the first kick at this one, please. 2 minutes.
Yeah, the NDP has long agreed with the reformation of the OMB. Local planning tribunals was transitioned into. We're certainly going to, we agree with the changes, and we're going to be pushing to make it so that they're actually following the rules, not making the rules up. We're going to be working with municipalities in order to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Granville?
Can you repeat the question for me?
The question is, with respect to the proposed changes to the OMB, the Ontario Municipal Board, are you supportive of the changes? I'm assuming that you are, but you have 2 minutes to tell me you do.
They're long overdue changes, and I'll tell you how I got involved in this process and how I advocate for these changes. They're in part of my community in Port Perry, it's called Canterbury Commons. So they have this lovely golf course. It was designated by the municipality green space. So the residents, the golf course, it's beautiful. People bought houses along the golf course, thinking it was always going to be there as green space. Some developer came in and wanted to purchase it. And they took the municipality to the OMB and they won. So I agree with the change because this gives municipalities more control over those processes. So these are changes that I wholeheartedly support.
Thank you. Okay. Joel, anything more on the OMB?
Nothing further.
Okay. So here's your final question, and then I'm going to open it up to anybody in the audience who might like to ask a question. There's a microphone here, but we'll do one last question here. Granville, you get the first kick at this one. Would you be accountable for your decisions and accessible to residents in their needs? And I'm going to add to that and explain to me exactly how.
If I would be accountable to...
Accountable. Would you be accountable? You have already been, so it's past tense. Do you feel that you've been accountable for your decisions, and have you been accessible to the residents?
I wholeheartedly, that's one of my foundation, one of my premise is that I am going to be accessible. I told the only thing I would ever dismiss a staff for is if they're not accountable, if they're not there to meet the needs of my residents. And it doesn't matter what party, what stripe, I try to be. And hopefully I am, and hopefully I have been. And that's why I am in public life, to make people's lives better. And hopefully I have done that. And I have an open door policy. Anybody can see me. Actually, I rather face-to-face than a phone call, so I will tell my staff, get mad at me for inviting folks in, because I like to bring folks in and I like to meet them on a personal level and discuss their issues. I can't solve every issue, but part of my motto is, if I can't solve it, I don't say, look, it's none of I make sure my staff direct them and help them and navigate them to whether it's a federal matter or a municipal matter or any other matter. I make sure that that information is conveyed to them, and I will continue to do that. And that's what I did as a school board trustee, and that's what I do in my current position. And I am here to support the people. I'm here. They elected me, which I am honored to serve them, and I'm at their beck and call 24/7. I give them my personal number sometimes, which is at the behest of my staff sometimes, and I make up. I used to set appointments up, and it conflicts with something they were doing, so I try not to do that anymore. But
20 seconds.
Accessibility is what it's all about. I am accountable to the voters who put me here. So yes.
Thank you. Okay. Joel.
Yes. So absolutely. That's who ultimately I'll be accountable to, all the constituents that reside in the Durham riding. I'm really happy to say that in our platform, we have an MPP code of conduct that we're going to be implementing. And that's going to be really important for transparency so that everybody knows exactly what they should be expecting from their representatives. We're going to make it in plain language so that everybody can understand clearly what it is that we're supposed to be doing for them, so that you're not making a phone call to a constituency office and then being refused access. We're going to make sure that that sort of thing just doesn't happen. And it's right there in our 98-page platform. And again, I expect to be held to account when I'm representing you. Thank you.
Thank you. Granville, anything else you'd like to add to that?
That's fine. It's
Fine.
good.
Do we have any questions from the floor, please? Gentleman in the Keep Transit Public t-shirt. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Brian Connolly, and I'm a resident in this riding. I have serious questions when it comes to the privatization of our public services, such as our transit systems all across Ontario, and including our transportation network, including roads. Every single project from 407 to the LRTs in Toronto, the LRTs in Hamilton, to the GO Train expansion is all public-private partnerships. They're financed and built. Some are maintained and operated, and some are maintained by these private companies, not the public sector. Everybody says it's public. The Liberal government says it's public. But the Metrolinx board in 2009, all regional and city councillors were kicked off the board by the McGuinty government, and private members were brought in on the board. Every Metrolinx board meeting is closed to the public. I've never seen a city council or a legislature or parliament closed to the public. Deputations have to be emailed in to Metrolinx, and they'll craft an answer and supply the answer online.
So do you have a question, sir?
Yes. What reforms are you going to make your governments to Metrolinx?
Okay.
And are you going to continue using the P3s and taking control out of the public hands?
Thank you for your question. Joel, you want to go first?
We're not going to use the P3s. We're going to get rid of the P3 model entirely. We know we're going to listen to the Auditor General. One theme that you're going to see throughout our entire costed 98-page platform is we're listening to the experts, and we're listening to what the Auditor General says. The Auditor General says P3s caused over $8 billion in waste. And from that, we're going to say, you know what, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that with everyone's money. Why would we? So we're not in favor of the P3 model. We're not going to continue down that bad path. You can expect that transit projects will remain public, using traditional public procurement. You can expect that the 407 East, unlike the ETR, will not be leasing it away for 99 years or selling it to what ended up being an extremely low bidder. You can count on those things not happening. Same with the 418, same with the 412. Like we're not in the business of privatizing. We're in the business of keeping things public and making sure that any money that's generated from our assets is recirculated throughout our local economies. Thank you.
Okay. Randall?
I agree with you on that. And to echo Joel's point, yes, the 407, that's now owned by us, the taxpayers, you, the taxpayers, will remain so. And by the way, it's 1/3 less than the parts that sold off. And it wasn't only sold off, it was sold off to a foreign entity that has made, what, $17 billion in profit. Imagine what that could do. How many new hospitals that could build, how many new schools. So I agree with you. And I'm also a big supporter of public transportation being public, because we need folks, when it's private, when transportation is private, let's face it, they're not going to go on routes that's not profitable. And it shouldn't be about that. It should be about getting citizens wherever they need to go, when they need to go there. But so the P3s is something we're looking at, because government has to make decisions, tough decisions at times. They have to look at the most efficient way to spend taxpayers' dollars. So sometimes there might be savings, sometimes there might not. But it's something we will always look at, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure the quality is there, but we also have to be respectful of every single tax dollar that's spent. So it's something that we look at. And Metrolinx, as you know, is an entity. It's overseen by the government, and I didn't realize that so much of it, to be quite honest, was actually privatized. And it's something, and so I brought that, because I am very vocal, I brought that to the government attention, because that first came to my attention from the TTC employees. So I work for you, and I support that. So I want to make sure that those projects are efficient and they run. And as I said, I believe public transit should be in public hands. So I am with you on that, and I fully support that.
Do you believe that TTC should be maintaining the LRTs within Toronto? Because SNC Lavalin...
Excuse me, sir. Could you use the microphone so we can all hear?
Yeah, so you believe that the TTC...
Yeah, well, you know what,
Hold on. Please. The TTC, do you believe they should be maintaining the LRTs that are being built in Toronto right now, considering the maintenance was awarded to SNC Lavalin, and SNC Lavalin was the same very P3 company that walked away from the Union Pearson Express construction a quarter way through construction. So why were they awarded a 30-year maintenance contract after walking away from the Union Pearson Express, which is still costing us billions of dollars in taxpayer money?
Fair comment. Do you want to respond?
So I don't know the intricacies of that, but it's something, as I said, when it came to my attention, I have brought it to my Toronto caucus members, because the TDC is there, and it's something that they're looking at, and it's something that they're aware of now, and it's something that they'll be looking at going forward. That's all I can add to that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for the question, by the way.
Thank you. Joel, do you have anything to add?
Just on the topic of these P3s and these privatizations, I mean, it's the same old story, whether it's hydro or healthcare, transit, and I'm not surprised that our member of provincial parliament didn't know that, because it's actually something that I've looked into, like who actually is the owners behind Metrolinx. So one of the consistent themes is underfund. Complicate, right? Underfund some more, frustrate, get everybody really frustrated. And then what happens is they sell privatization as the only other option. So while we maintain some ownership of some things across this province, the theme is that whole neoliberalism model, that movement of government power over to private profiteers. It's all about making it so complex so the average person can't understand it. And it's a shame, and you're not going to see that with an NDP government.
Thank you. Next question.
Okay, I'm with Health Coalition, and there's a couple questions. One is about you saying that the Health Coalition said they're going to close the Bowmanville Hospital. There's a threat. That isn't what we said. I know that. It was talking about mergers, and we come and talk to you, but that's besides the point. That's not my real question. I just want to let that known. So it's about pharmacare. So I've been to many seminars done on pharmacare and how universal pharmacare is so cheap for us to get drugs, and they have it in every country in the world that has a healthcare system like we do, has universal pharmacare. So I would say it was good that you announced free drugs for under 25, but the amount of drugs being used by the kids under 25 is very low. Now I'm a senior citizen now, officially. I'm going to say, hey, I finally get my drugs free other than the $100. That's what you were going to say to me. That's okay. But what about the people between 25 and 65? They're the ones that start need the drugs. They start getting high blood pressure and all this. So they're the ones that need a pharmacare plan. And the way you get real pharmacare plan is to buy drugs in bulk, so it's cheap. It's cheap on the taxpayers and everything.
So,
It's cheaper for
excuse me just a second here, because we're running out of time.
Okay.
Can I do a Reader's Digest version of your question? I think your question is, it's great under 25s, it's great over 65s, but what is your party's platform to provide drugs to those 40 years in between? Is that correct?
Yes, and they're the most important people that need it.
Thank you.
And that's
Granville,
for me.
you're
Okay.
first on that one.
So we have rolled out one of the most comprehensive and bold program that is frankly practical and responsible. And that's the key. It has to be practical and responsible. We have added 4,400 drugs to the formula. And that makes a big difference in the lives of people. And I've spoken to countless constituents, young folks in schools, who are overjoyed at the move we have made. So we are working and looking towards potential universal pharmacare. And that's the main reason why Eric Hoskins, our health minister, is working with the feds. What we are looking at is universal pharmacare, just like healthcare, that's universal throughout the whole country. And it's funded by the federal government. They are more able to fund it. So this is just the first step. We have added over 65 now, and it's more than 100. It depends on the amount of, some seniors are on 10, 12 medications, so that adds up. So it's completely free for them. So we're getting there, but we're taking a practical, reasonable, responsible approach. That's what we're doing. We're doing it in a responsible fashion. So we're going to get there, but we're going to get there in a way that we can afford, in a way that's going to be without minimal cost, without raising taxes exponentially. So we're doing it, I believe, the right way with our federal partners. We have brought them to the table, and there is ongoing discussions right now about universal pharmacy. So that's our approach, and we believe that's the way to go.
Okay, thank you. Joel?
So former federal health minister Jane Philpott, she said that it would be irresponsible to move forward with a universal pharmacare plan federally. And that's really a shame. And the reason that she said it would be irresponsible is because Canada is currently paying the second most for prescription medications in the world. You can imagine who's paying the most south of the border, where it's entirely private, right? It's not a matter of a chicken and an egg. It's not a matter of you can't get to the universal pharmacare until we drive the cost of those bulk purchases down. Ontario has a huge population. That's why we're moving forward with our universal pharmacare plan. And it's going to be the first one in Canada. It's going to be much the same way that our Medicare was with Tommy Douglas when he started that in Saskatchewan. He started it there and it blossomed. We're going to start a universal pharmacare plan here, and it's going to blossom beyond there, and it's going to be fully comprehensive by the time we're done with it. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Okay, we've got 20 minutes left, and we have closing statements from both of our candidates. So if you can keep your questions brief, and I'll limit the candidates to 1 minute each for your responses, and we'll get through this line. Thank you. Next question, please.
Hi there. I'll be brief because my question is actually quite similar, although it is rather specific. So I'd like to ask this to Mr. Anderson, although I'd like Mr. Usher's response as well. So it's known that we have 6 public drug plans currently in Ontario. And we know that because of that patchwork of public coverage, we have things like redundancy, high administrative costs, and a universal 4,400 drug formulary, which doesn't translate to each of those demographics properly. So my question is, why do the Ontario Liberals continue to add to that patchwork without pursuing the benefits of universality?
Joel.
Oh, sorry. I thought the question was directed to Granville.
So the question is, why do we have pharmacare?
So it's rather, why do we, with the initial rollout of OHIP Plus and its current expansion through the removal of the copay and deductible for seniors, I see that as adding to an existing patchwork of public drug plans, which has driven up cost and created gaps in coverage. So as that's being done, my question is, why has the Liberal government done that instead of pursue the benefits of complete universality?
As I alluded to, that's where we're going with that. This is, as I said, we think it's the most practical and financially responsible approach at the moment. And universality is what the end goal is. But we have to take baby steps at a time. We have to, without overtaxing the economy and without adding a lot of financial burden to our deficit, etc. So as our province grow and as I said, in collaboration with our federal government, we want universality. So a universal plan is not too far away. So stay tuned. That's what we want. But we think our approach is the best approach to do it. So we are on the same page with the NDP. It's just how we go about doing it.
10 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Joel, do you have anything you want to add?
Nothing to add on that one, thanks.
Okay. Next question, please.
Hi, my name is Donna. What is your party's...
Donna, you're short. The microphone. Thank you. So we can hear you. Thank you so much.
Better?
Yep.
Hi. What is your party's plan on addressing the backlog of mental health services in Ontario? Right now, we have an opioid crisis. We have children and youth whose families are paying out of pocket for services for their children. It's shameful.
Thank you. Joel, 1 minute, please.
So there's a few things with the opiate crisis. I've sat down and I've been a part of conversations with other healthcare professionals and trying to think about how we tackle that. And a piece of it is right there in that room with all the healthcare professionals, people who are on the front line. The NDP's plan is to listen to them. You know, when it comes to safe injection sites and then dirty needles being left around parks, situations that we see just west of us in Oshawa. Those are types of things that we're not going to be seeing when we've actually gone through the system of speaking with the front line and people who are involved in that. As far as the mental health for children in 20 seconds, what we'll be doing is we'll be making it so that it's not 2 or 3 children per school that are being assessed per year. We're going to be bringing more mental health services into schools and at that level, and also more EAs, more educational assistants, more ECEs as well to help.
Thank you. Granville?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. So the opioid crisis, yes, it's a crisis, and that's why we have provided immediate relief, $222 million over 3 years to enhance our strategy to prevent opioid and overdose and addiction. So we are adding to that, and we are working on that. We're expanding the supply of medication, life-saving medication for people for the opioid addiction. We are doing a lot in that regard. And we have also added $300 million for schools for mental health. I don't know if you're aware of that. That's in the...
20 seconds.
Yes.
I do work in the school
Yes,
system.
so we have added that, and we're going to add a mental health. Every high school is going to have someone, a mental health expert in each and every high school in this province. So we're working on it, and we have also added a number of EAs as well to help in that regard.
So are you saying right now, I do work in a high school, we have one social worker that we share amongst a family of schools. Are you saying that we're going to have our own social worker?
Yes, every school is going to have one, that's yes.
And then at the community at large, we have children who cannot access a mental health bed on a psychiatric ward. Are those beds going to increase for our youth?
We have done that, and we are increasing beds. Actually, Ontario Shores, I was there a few weeks ago, and we added some 20 new beds there. And also the Ajax Hospital is going to add another 20. It's not nearly enough, but we are adding beds in a responsible, as much as we can, and so we'll get there. So we're doing that, and as I said, it's not enough. We have to do more, and we are trying to do more, and over time we have our mental health, we have had $2.1 billion added on top of what we have currently for mental health. So the budget has another $2.1 billion that's going towards mental health services.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut it off here because we do have 2 more questions and we do need time for concluding statements. And I'm sure our candidates will hang around afterwards for anybody who has further questions. Yes, please, can you keep it brief?
Okay, Mark Standish. I live in Curtis since 2000. My question is for both of you. First, thank you very much for taking time from your campaigns to talk to us tonight. And my question is on education. I don't think this was addressed yet. In the next 4 years, I have 3 children that will be entering either the college or university system. One of them is looking at $80,000 in costs. Now, for Granville, what has your government in the past 4 years done to address that? And what is your plan for the next 4 years in terms of university and college? And Joel, I'd like to hear your comments about how you would address that as well.
Okay, 1 minute, gentlemen, go.
Okay, so first of all, tuition is free for 50,000 and under. And it's not exclusively 50,000 and under. It depends on your circumstances. So folks over 50,000 also will get benefits from that. Depends on how many kids you have in university, etc. So there are it's a formula that you can go on to adjust that, because we believe that to grow our economy, that every single Ontarian should have the right to a good education. So that's our goal, and that's kind of my background. That's something I am passionate about. That's why I was a trustee for 11 years. That's why I'm parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Education, because I want to make sure those foundations are there, and I will continue to work. And if folks of Durham just re-elect me, which I hope they will, I will continue to advocate so kids like yours can get the best education possible in this province.
Thank you. Jules.
So what we'll be doing is currently people who qualify for OSAP loans, those will now be OSAP grants. That's going to be one piece of savings available. For people that have now graduated and they find themselves facing that steep student debt, right away, immediately, we're going to wipe out the interest on that debt. That's right there in that platform of ours. So that's going to be a big piece of helping people as they try to move into careers and move into owning a car and owning a home and having a family. And I know for me that was my motivation coming out of school. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question, please.
Jim Sullivan, 1535 Concession Road 7. My question relates to the Clarington Transformer Station. First, it's an invitation to Joel to come to see this transformer station. It's a multi-million-dollar project on the Oak Ridges Moraine in the Greenbelt. I have met Granville Anderson a number of times in his office, and he's been in our homes. What has happened is that this is at least a $200 million project, and the reasons for it have changed 3 times. I'm coming to my question quickly. First, it was to be put in place in order to offset the closing of the Pickler nuclear plant, and so it had to be finished by 2015.
Sir, we're running out of time.
Just a second.
Need your question, please.
Just a second. The question is coming. It's changed to the next phase was for the GTA. That was the reason for the project. The transformers that were put in are now looked like they're connected to Ottawa. This has nothing to do with the Eastern GTA. And so now we have a 3rd transformer being put on the land by Hydro One without an environmental assessment. And again, we as people of Ontario are going to pay big time for this. Question is, Granville, we asked you, you were the one who said that these transformers were for the Eastern GTA. Now it turns out that they're not for the Eastern GTA.
Okay, so sir, I'm going to have to ask you to get to the question.
Can he give us, the question is, can Granville Anderson give us the reason and tell us why these transformers were built if they're not for the Eastern GTA?
I can answer that very straightforwardly and forthright. We have spent numerous times, hours, maybe 100 hours with staff and myself. I've met with you folks a number of times. Okay, it is. What had happened was Pickering was scheduled to be closed. It's extended until 2024. So after that, it will be closed. So those transformers will be in full force. The additional transformers, that was approved back in 2008, long before my time, just as this one was built here. It was canceled. It didn't go ahead. It wasn't canceled. It didn't go ahead because of the recession that set in. So it would be built exactly where it's being built now. So I know. So my role in this is to make sure that it doesn't affect your well water, it doesn't affect your community, make sure it's safe, make sure, and all of those standards have been met.
And time, please. You can continue it afterwards if that's okay. Joel, do you have anything to add?
I'll just say that I'm very much looking forward to visiting. Thank you for the invitation. Again, with Hydro One, the transparency is now an issue. We used to have 8 oversight watchdogs, and we fully intend to bring those back so that Hydro One is being watched, so that examples like this, which unfortunately I don't know too much about right now, so that we can actually comment on what's going on and why, because I don't think that that information will be available.
Thank you. So that's the end of our questions. We're now going to move into closing statements. I'm going to ask our timer, Janice, who's been keeping us on track tonight, thank you so much, to give each of our candidates 3 minutes. And I would be remiss in not thanking Libby Rakansky, who's done a fabulous job of organizing this one more time. So 3 minutes for each of our candidates, and I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but I'm understanding that both of you will be hanging around later for more questions from your constituents. Yes. Perfect. All right, since you went first at the beginning, Granville, Joel, you get the first crack here. 3 minutes, please.
The PCs, they're usually upfront about their plans to cut jobs and privatize services. This time, however, they're taking a page from out of the Liberal playbook. Hudak's defeat and Wynn's success during the 2014 election seems to have led them to believe that lying, hiding, and disguising their true agenda will get them elected. Andrea Horvath and the NDP, on the other hand, are offering something different. We're raising people up, and we're being transparent about how we're going to do it. It's not a choice between bad and worse. In Durham, we have a real option. That option is to experience change for the better. There's reason to be hopeful. The NDP has presented Ontarians with a 98-page platform. And that platform, it's not just 98 pages of things that we're going to do. It's 98 pages full of how much things are going to cost, things that we're going to do, and also where the money's going to come from to pay for them. It's all right there. www.ontariondp.ca/platform. The entire thing's there. It's transparent. We're not hiding anything at all. I ask you to look to the Progressive Conservative Party, and you're going to not find anything. You're not going to find their platform. You're going to find their leader spouting off numbers at the mouth, using south of the border style politics. That's not what you're finding with the NDP. We're presenting a plan with affordable childcare, dental care for everyone, universal pharmacare, government accountability, and economic conditions for success. Through my volunteer roles within my union, the greater labor movement, my work with the Health Coalition, I've experienced what it takes to represent thousands of people. It's not easy. I know that. I'm up to that challenge, though, and I'm asking for you to give me the opportunity to fulfill that and to meet that challenge. Thank you very much. I look forward to being your MPP.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Joel. Granville?
Thank you very much, and I am so honored to be here this evening, as I stated before. As the only candidate who live in the riding and has lived here and served this community, I am proud to put my name forward to continue to serving you after June 7th. And you know what, we still have a lot of work to do in this great community. I hope to be able to continue the great work we're doing and see all the amazing projects through. In the 19 years prior to I becoming your member, None of these massive projects was funded. I have been a strong advocate for Durham, a local voice, ensuring our community finally gets its fair share. I was looking over some paper clippings from back in 2011, and I saw where the region and the municipality had 3 asks of the province. One was the extension of the 407 to the 115. That's delivered on. I also saw that they want the refurbishment of Darlington. I have also delivered on that. We have also delivered on that. And the third one was GO train services to Curtis and Bowmanville. We've also worked together collaboratively with the municipality and the mayor, who is in the crowd, who is a great supporter of Clarington. He's a strong advocate for his community. And we were able to work together with the community to achieve these. And the best is yet to come, and I know there is a lot more work to be done. I believe that I am the only candidate that lives within the riding. I bring a unique passion and qualification to continue serving this community. This is why I'm proud to put forth my name again for re-election on June 7th. So I say vote locally because it protects all individuals living in the community. It gives everyone a chance to have their voices heard and respected. I hope I'll be able to confirm the great work we have started together and to continue the great work we have started together and see these amazing projects through. And the speaker south of the border, Tip O'Neill, said, all politics is local. So I'm going to keep this local, and I'm going to continue to work hard for you to deliver for Durham on June 7th. And with your support, we will transform this community. It already is to a community that people want to live in, raise their family in, work and play and do all the wonderful things. And I'm going to promise you that I will work as hard as I have been over the last 4 years for your community. I work for you, and I want to continue to serve you. So on June 7th, I am counting on your support so we can continue to deliver for Durham. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, I would like to thank Janice for being our timekeeper and Libby for organizing this. I'd like to thank our 2 candidates for being here and answering your questions. I'd like to thank you all for being here. Democracy is not a spectator sport, and decisions are made by people who show up. So thank you for showing up tonight, and remember to vote. Thank you all. Good night.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Is this what freedom looks like?
You will love the Lord thy God with all your heart, or you will feel the pain of his judgment.
We come here, we work, we die.
The future of mankind depends on what we do today!
My name is June Osborne. I am free.
As the first ever winners of the Epic Mac and Cheese competition hosted by Durham College, we're here to show you how to make the award-winning recipe. Today we decided to use ziti noodles, but you can substitute it for any other type of pasta that can hold the sauce. So in order to make the sauce, you're going to need flour, butter, milk, and a little bit of mustard, and of course the most important ingredient, a little bit of Munster cheese.
So first we're going to saute off some onions and garlic. After that we're going to add the margay sausage. At the very end, we're just going to add green onions, roasted red pepper, and mushrooms. What makes it spicy is the cayenne pepper and the red pepper flakes.
And now we mix it all together. And lastly, dish up and enjoy, Durham.
Omni Television has been a dependable voice serving Canada's multilingual communities for nearly 40 years, and now we need your support. Deeply rooted in your community, Omni is a vital part of the rich history of ethnic broadcasting in Canada. Omni is committed to reflecting your voice in your language from your local perspective, because we are a part of your community too. Your stories need to be heard. Go to supportomnitv.ca to add your voice to the hashtag SupportOmniTV campaign today.
Most people living with it don't even know they have it. I'm Alex Lifeson. My family, like many of yours, has dealt with the condition